are listening to an episode of On the Topic, and this week my intro has nothing to do with this episode at all, but you'll find me web slinging around Ports of Guildhall. I'm Dan.
You were indeed, but my one is about today's episode, and I've got glowing red eyes, horns, and big shiny teeth.
You horny devil.
Quite. But not what you think, listener. And I'm Alex, and not a horny devil. And this week we are talking about Cryptids, Volume 1. But before we get into our first foray into the strange and mysterious world of zoology and the rest of things, what have you been up to, Dan?
Well, this past weekend, you could have found me at Portsmouth Comic Con over 2 days. On the Saturday, I dressed up as Spider-Man. Great fun.
In your spandex?
Yes.
You look great, by the way.
Nowhere to hide in that stuff, though. It was very hot as well.
You didn't leave an awful lot to imagination, must be said.
No.
I loved it.
Hugs the love handles. But hey, it was good fun. You know, I had parents and kids alike asking for photos, which is, you know, phenomenal.
Great.
Probably made someone's day.
Did you charge anyone money to...
No.
You didn't make a profit?
Claire did make a comment as I said, "Oh yeah, I don't charge." She went, "You don't charge." Like eye roll.
You should have brought out your contactless payments machine and asked them to tap it.
Yeah, it's a £5, please.
Yeah.
I could have been minted by now. Obviously, maybe next year.
Yeah. It's a trick.
Yeah.
But it's good though. If I look from the photos on social media, there was lots going on, lots of people dressed up, and it looked like a really good event. I missed this year. I think I went to, not last year's, maybe the year before. But it's a really good event. Lots of people go.
Yeah, I think we should pitch to the organisers. Maybe we should have a panel.
Oh, right.
Because I sat on some good ones this year.
Yeah.
So there was one with 4 cosplayers. There was Molly May, Kevin, Alice and Amy. All content creators, all cosplayers. And they were talking about, you know, how to sort of become big on social media and misogyny, disabilities. It's quite fascinating.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was very good stuff. I saw 2 Marvel artists, Pepe Larraz and Esad Ribic. Both phenomenal. Interestingly, Alex, you know, recently we talked about the dead internet theory.
Yes.
Pepe Larraz talked about a tweet that he put out. So someone has created an AI which has learned and can almost replicate his style of art.
Yeah, that's wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nuts. And he said he's not so much concerned for himself because he knows Marvel will always hire him because, you know, it's his artwork.
Yeah.
But for the future, you know, he's a bit unsure. He's a bit worried about the next generation of artists coming through.
And this is the thing which we talked about in a couple of episodes ago now, where AI can probably do these things, or very soon it's going to be near perfect or indistinguishable, but it still lacks soul. And when you look at those images, okay, it's an early engine or it hasn't quite learnt yet, you can tell it doesn't really have that human creativity. It doesn't have that soul or passion is a word I'm looking for, I guess. It looks like a very pretty picture. It looks drawn and coloured in digital art form, but it lacks something. Do you know what I mean?
It's sort of lacking conviction. You know, when you sort of draw a line when you're doing stuff, you can go from like sort of soft to quite hard.
There's an intention, there's an end product, there's a vision. I think where you're going with is that you don't get that in that image.
No.
And I didn't...
It's close, don't get me wrong, but it's just to say it doesn't have that love or care to it.
And admittedly, I'm not sure if I should admit it, but I'm doing it anyway. I was travelling around, I think, I know it was Seville in Spain at the time. I read your message and I saw the image that you sent. I didn't read it properly and looked at, oh, that's a cool looking image, but it looks a bit disconnected. There was a number of different panels, but it didn't really make sense. It didn't look like it isn't from the same kind of comic storyline. But the other one, which by comparison was, so I thought, I'll read that later. I'm currently devouring a sangria or an ice cream. I can't remember what I was doing. And I read it again. And I thought, that makes sense. But looking at the panels, you can see what AI was trying to do, but it still didn't have that same impact. That's not to say that, you know, again, once it feeds it more information, it can't almost indistinguishably recreate it. But I still think it's a long way off that creative human aspect. I think it's a fascinating discussion topic.
Who else did I see? I saw Richard Jacks, award-winning composer who did the soundtrack for the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Oh, right, yeah.
And
Still to finish that, actually.
yeah, I still need to finish that. And he also did James Bond 007 Bloodstone. Don't know if you ever played that or if you're familiar with that game.
I'm not.
No, I haven't played it either.
I'm sure it's great soundtrack.
It's got Daniel Craig's face on it, so
Oh, right. Sexy.
yeah, he was very fascinating. Played some clips.
I recall some of the promo before it, but I think it was on PlayStation 3 or something. It was a console I never had, and it wasn't released on, I guess, 360, and that's why I never got it. So I think I'm aware of it, but I never played it, no.
Shout out to Joker Squad UK, who do a lot of Star Wars stuff. Their principal charity is the Alexander Devine Children's Hospice Service. So they're some phenomenal cosplay. They set up a Star Wars experience, which we did on the Sunday. I actually dressed down on the Sunday because it was just far too warm to be wearing spandex for a second day running.
Oi, oi.
Well, I mean, the Tatooine merchant wanted to trade in Claire's niece for a self-repairing droid. It was 3PO, it was just wires everywhere. And I said, well, he doesn't look like he's self-repairing. He's like, no, self-repairing. Okay, cool. Can I trade her in for the self-repairing droid and a gun? And then we've got a deal. He was like, yeah, got a deal.
Brilliant.
So
You got a droid and a gun? Well,
yeah,
a not
so I
working
thought.
droid. Oh, right.
Yeah, he stitched me up.
Oh,
Walked away
so
with nothing but.
no niece.
Oh, we've got the niece still. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
deal
we
didn't go
sent her
through.
home. She's
Okay.
safe. So we didn't get very far. But that was it. That's really it from me. Good weekend.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex? What have you been up to?
They look good. Spain, seeing some very lovely, friendly Spanish people, having some very lovely Spanish food and alcoholic beverages, and just enjoying half term here in the UK.
Any
Well, not in the
chorizo?
UK.
Chorizo?
A bit, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
A bit of paella, and plenty of sangria.
I didn't want to sound like a commoner by saying chorizo.
No, you need to
Chorizo.
say it properly, not to upset our Spanish listeners. There's a
No.
couple out there. So yeah, no, it's very nice. Thanks, Dan. Lovely to be back. Currently, it is sunshine, warm blue skies, on a lovely summer's evening here on the south coast
It
in
is.
Portsmouth.
And I heard the chimes of Portsmouth Cathedral, harking back to the days of the weekly roundup when we used to do this.
The window's open exactly for that. We're going to have the seagulls flying past and some more bells. It's going to be reminiscent. It's going to be lovely.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild out there. It's beautiful. Driving over, didn't need my hoodie or anything.
No, indeed. The summer is here and long may it last. But that's me, Dan.
Awesome. Well, in that case, we should probably dive into the mystical world of cryptids.
We should. So, Dan, what are cryptids?
Well, all I know is they're mystical creatures. But I presume, looking by your notes, I can't really see because I'm a bit of a blind man.
Oh, right.
You've got a good description there.
I have got a description. So, listener, if you're still with us, cryptids are referred to an animal or creature that is rumoured or claimed to exist but not has been proven to exist by scientific evidence. So the term cryptid was coined in the 1980s by cryptozoologist John E. Wallace and encompasses a wide range of legendary, mythological or elusive beings. I think for me the most important words there, not so much as mythological, but legendary and or elusive. We'll talk about the elusive, I think, quite a lot in this next episode. Cryptids can take various forms, such as unknown animals, legendary creatures, or even humanoid entities.
Yes.
And I've definitely got a couple. Now, they're often associated with folklore, local legends, or sightings reported by individuals. And some well-known examples of cryptids you may have heard of, I don't know, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, or even Chupacabra. What I should say is, Dan, I've chosen none of those, actually. I've gone quite left field for this episode.
Same. I think we sort of genuinely have great minds, great minds think alike.
And we've gone straight down the rabbit hole. So I guess, listen, if you're looking for us to expand upon the well-known ones, I'm afraid that's not this episode. We may cover it in Volume 2 or perhaps in Volume 3, and there's absolutely tons out there. But no, actually, hopefully you'll learn new ones, or at least be refreshed in terms of some of the ones we're talking about. But these aren't going to be common, at least not on my list.
No.
Now, apparently what distinguishes cryptids from recognised species is the lack of conclusive evidence supporting their existence. So despite numerous sightings, eyewitness accounts or anecdotal reports, their existence remains unverified. and of course subject to scepticism.
Mm.
Now, cryptozoologists, enthusiasts and researchers often investigate and search for evidence of cryptids to shed light on the existence. Now, these things can be found in various cultural traditions and religions worldwide, often tied to rich tapestry of local folklore and mythology. Now, the study of these things, known as cryptozoology, seeks to explore and investigate these mysterious creatures, uncovering evidence and analysing reports to determine their veracity. Now, it is important to note that the existence of some cryptids is highly unlikely. They continue to capture the imagination and curiosity of many, adding an element of mystery and wonder. These cryptids, which we're going to cover in this episode and Volume 1, have captured the imagination of people around the world, and their stories continue to intrigue and fascinate.
Mm.
And again, two important words there, intrigue and fascination.
Yes. I mean, these have come up sort of sporadically across episodes in our 5 years of doing this podcast.
Interwoven in our rabbit hole series.
So, Conspiracy Theories Volumes 1 and 2.
I don't know how he does this, guys. He's going to start reeling off the OTT numbers in a second.
World Mysteries.
Yeah. Folklore.
Urban
Was
Legends.
OTT 6, was that?
It was OTT 2. It was one of
2.
our first episodes.
There you
yeah.
go. He's doing it again. Rain Man.
Yeah, I try.
Mm.
I couldn't tell you the previous ones, to be honest, especially from the weekly roundup days, but they're there.
They are there.
If you subscribe, you'll find them on the list.
It's in the archive. But yes, they all kind of intersect into those episodes. But this one we're truly going to deep dive into it.
We are diving in.
Also say, actually, listener, before we get into it, Dan and I, again, haven't compared notes.
No.
So Dan doesn't know what I'm going to be talking about and vice versa. So there may actually be things on his list that are on my list, and that's fine. We can deal with it and we can add to each other. Or it might be that everyone's learning today, and that'd be great.
Hope so.
I'm sure it'll be a case. So who's starting, me or you?
I'll dive in.
Go for it.
Let's head to the USA with the Jersey Devil.
Oh, right.
So
I've got this one, by the way.
you have...
But it's fine.
It's all good?
You kick off.
So it is discovered in South Jersey and Philadelphia folklore. The Jersey Devil, also known as the Leeds Devil, a legendary creature said to inhabit the forests of the Pine Barrens in South Jersey.
Yep.
The creature is often described as a flying biped with hooves, but there are many variations. So what does this thing look like, Alex? The common description is that of a bipedal kangaroo-like or wyvern-like creature with a horse or goat-like head. Leathery bat-like wings.
Yummy.
Horns. Starting off well here.
Yep.
Small arms with clawed hands. Legs with cloven hooves. And a forked or pointed tail. It has been reported to move quickly and is often described as emitting a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. You want to see this thing on Halloween night, would you?
Nope. Apparently it's also around 3 to 4 feet tall, standing on its hind legs.
Not very small then. Not very big.
Not very big, but then that I think links into kind of the agility and how it may not be easily seen or picked out in the dead of night.
Big enough to boot if it comes near, though.
Mate, I'm not kicking that, I'm running away. Based on that description.
Fight or flight, isn't it?
I mean, looking at the image here, I mean, look at that.
It's quite harrowing.
It reminds me a bit like the image I'm showing Dan. I appreciate listening. You can't see it. I'll put it onto the blog, ontopicpodcast.wordpress.com. It reminds me a bit like the Thestrals in Harry Potter.
It does, yeah.
At least this image, very horse-like but demonic.
Yeah, it does.
Something unnerving, which definitely fits the description.
Very creepy.
It is, isn't it?
So its origin, and again, I've got some words within my notes across the episode which are probably going to get us cancelled.
Uh-oh.
I do try. So the origin, the Lenape, I think I've got that right, or the Lenape people who originally inhabited the Pine Barrens believed the area was inhabited by a spirit called Umsing, which sometimes took the form of a deer-like creature with leathery wings. I need to put my teeth in for this. According to popular folklore, the Jersey Devil originated with a Pine Barrens resident named Jane Leeds, also known as Mother Leeds. The legend states that Mother Leeds had 12 children, and after finding she was pregnant for the 13th time, that's a lot of kids.
That isn't it.
She cursed the child in frustration, crying that the child would be the devil. That's probably why it looks so deformed and demented. In 1735, Mother Leeds was in labour on a stormy night while her friends gathered around her. Born as a normal child, the 13th child changed to a creature with hooves, a goat's head, bat wings, and a forked tail. Growling and screaming, the child beat everyone with its tail before flying up the chimney and heading into the pines. In some versions of the tale, Mother Leeds was supposedly a witch and the child's father was the devil himself. Some versions of the legend also state that there was a subsequent attempt by local clergymen to exorcise the creature from the Pine Barrens.
Wow.
So this is one of those stories where, in my opinion, I don't know if this thing actually exists. It's more of a legend to probably scare kids.
Oh, do you reckon like a boogeyman? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But there have been some sightings.
Oh yeah, tell me.
There's been many claims of sightings and occurrences involving the Jersey Devil. According to legend, while visiting the Hanover Mill Works to inspect his cannonballs being forged, Commodore Stephen Decatur sighted a flying creature and fired a cannonball directly upon it to no effect.
That's pretty difficult. I'm not questioning this guy's accuracy, but that's quite an effort to shoot a cannonball at something that's moving with any kind of meaningful accuracy. That's a bit wishful thinking on his part.
Yeah, quite. Joseph Bonaparte, elder brother of Napoleon,
strong name,
is also claimed to have seen the Jersey Devil while hunting on his Bordentown estate about 1820.
Okay.
During 1840, the Jersey Devil was blamed for several livestock killings. Similar attacks were reported during 1841, accompanied by tracks and screams. In Greenwich Township in December 1925, a local farmer shot an unidentified animal as it attempted to steal his chickens and then photographed the corpse. Afterward, he claimed that none of 100 people he showed it to could identify it.
Okay.
Gets a bit weirder. On July 27th, 1937, an unknown animal with red eyes, seen by residents in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, was compared to the Jersey Devil by a reporter for the Pennsylvania Bulletin of July 28, 1937. In 1951, a group of Gibbstown, New Jersey boys claimed to have seen a monster matching the devil's description, and claims of a corpse matching the Jersey Devil's description arose in 1957. During 1960, tracks and noises heard near Mays Landing were claimed to be from the Jersey Devil. During the same year, the merchants around Camden offered a $10,000 reward for the capture of the Jersey Devil, even offering to build a private zoo to house the creature if it was captured.
There you go. I mean, I'd pay to see it.
I mean, here we are. I'm sure that 10 grand is still floating around, and a zoo is still waiting to be built. Anything to add?
Well, the only thing I was going to say was, it's a perfect run-up. That's pretty much what I've got on here. More recent eyewitnesses, inverted commas, claim to see it flying through the air, lurking in forests, or causing disturbances and fright amongst locals. And this is, I guess, of a similar ilk. I won't talk too much about it, but the Mothman, where there is a figure that people aren't aware of it, or they think they're being watched, and there's some kind of feeling of an entity there, and then when they look, something quickly moves, and it moves in the trees, and it's the glowing red eyes, it's that kind of thing. But no one's ever found real evidence of anything like it. And I guess to that point where that guy back in, was it 1937, shot something but showed the picture, and where are all the dead ones?
Exactly. Where's the photos? Surely there must be somewhere in history.
I think this will be part of my roundup at the end about, credibility and in the day and age of mobile phones and in the ease of social media. But anyway, it's an interesting one. It might go in the camp of let's scare the children to eat their dinner and their greens
Yeah.
category. Good. Okay.
Strong start.
Strong start. I am going to talk about the Mongolian deathworm.
Interesting. So we're heading over to Asia.
We are. Have you got this one?
I don't.
Good.
I do not.
So this particular cryptid, I mean, I've never heard this before, guys, before I did the research. But this cryptid is said to inhabit the Gobi Desert in Mongolia and parts of China. Now, descriptions of the creature vary, but it is often depicted as a large, worm-like creature measuring around 2 to 5 feet in length. Now, it's characterised by its bright red or reddish-brown colour, which is believed to help it blend into the desert sand. Now, according to local folklore and reported sightings, this Mongolian deathworm, which is a brilliant name, by the way, sounds like a death metal band, Mongolian deathworm.
Sounds a lot like Tremors. Did you ever watch that film?
I was going to say Tremors. I mean, the image here,
yeah,
there's it looks quite phallic, wrinkled, but anyway, it's a worm of some description with some lots of teeth, ringed teeth, and it's spewing something from its mouth. So it looks quite gross, or deadly.
Looks nasty.
But this Mongolian deathworm apparently possesses some extraordinary abilities, don't they all?
Yeah.
It's said to have deadly venom that it can spit or release upon touch, causing instant death to human and animals. Now,
Instant death.
Instant. Now, the mere touch of the creature's skin is believed to be corrosive and capable of causing severe burns, or as it said, even death. Now, this cryptid is said to burrow through the sand, leaving distinct tracks or grooves, and it is rumoured to emerge during the hot summer months, particularly after heavy rainfalls when the ground is softer. Now, locals in the region have shared stories and warnings about the creature, and it has become part of the rich folklore in the area. Now, it is important to note that the existence of the Mongolian deathworm remains unverified, of course, and there is no scientific evidence to support its existence, but nonetheless it continues to capture the imagination of cryptid enthusiasts and adds to the mystique of the Gobi Desert. And for me, I think there's a couple of interesting things about this, because in deserts, what kind of other animals do you find in deserts, perhaps, Dan?
You get like the those sort of dogs, don't you?
You do get wild canines of varieties. You get scorpions.
Yep.
You get snakes.
Snakes.
Now, snakes do slither. Some slither sideways and leave interesting patterns on the sand. I'm not saying that these people who live in these areas are misidentifying what is a common animal to that region, but there might be other things. What I'm saying is that could cause these marks, or strange marks. It could be an animal that's on his way out and is, I don't know, he's moving around in odd nature. Dan's rolling his head like he's, I don't know if I could say this, maybe I shouldn't say it. You did a very good Stevie Wonder impression.
Oh boy.
You know, he's like, he's really into the... That's it, he's doing it again. He's got his eyes closed, he's feeling the rhythm of a Stevie Wonder track. You know how he's really into it, Stevie Wonder? And he's...
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great performance, a great artist, actually. He's phenomenal. But I do think that's a Stevie Wonder, not a Mongolian deathworm.
Not a Mongolian deathworm. Or a creature that's about to scark it, just like rolling around in the...
Yeah. And maybe when they talk about, you know, the heavy rainfalls, I mean... In a desert,
how much rain do you get in the desert?
Some do get some, and it gets very cold in the desert. Don't forget as well.
Yes, yeah.
But anyway, worms do actually come to the ground when it's raining because they can permeate the ground and they can feed on the nutrients at the top end of the soil where things fall to the ground and corrode and the rest of it. And that's why you see our favourite bird of the south coast, the shitehawk. As they land, you'll see them tapping their feet. You see them dancing?
Yeah.
And that is to tease the worms to come up because they want to mimic rainfall.
Yes.
Because the insects underneath the ground think, it's rain now, and they'll come up. And there's a seagull who eats them.
Worms do seem to like dark, dank places, don't they? Have you ever if you do the gardening right?
Yep.
And you leave it a couple of weeks before you take it all to the tip.
Yeah.
But you pick up the bags and there's just like a load of worms underneath.
Where do they come from?
Yeah.
Literally, where do they come from? But yeah, no, 100%.
It's madness.
So I think I think there is some obvious logic to other insects of that ilk, but I haven't found them. There's no dead ones lying around.
No.
So where are all the Mongolian death worms, Dan?
I want to know.
I want to know. It's an interesting one though, and not one I've heard of before. But a worm that is quite big for a worm, that is dangerous to touch. Not that I'd be getting too close to this one, and spits acid.
Wowzers!
It's interesting stuff.
Sounds like something out of a computer game.
Sounds like something out of Dune. Did you ever read that book? It's a film.
Yeah, I saw the film.
You seen the latest one?
Yeah.
Is that who did that one? It wasn't Luc Besson. He's done one before. I can't remember this guy.
It wasn't very good in my opinion.
They're releasing a volume 2.
Yeah. Good to see.
Anyway, that's my first one.
Next up, we're going to Tanzania.
Oh, good. Africa?
Yes, I believe so. Or Swahili. Mungwa or Nunda?
Come again?
Mungwa or Nunda. See, this is stuff that's going to get us cancelled.
Okay. I'll take it.
So the Mungwa is Swahili for strange one, or Nunda, which means fierce animal, cruel man, or something heavy, is a cryptid felid reported from Tanzania's coastal forests.
Sounds lovely.
It does, doesn't it? I'm not sure about this cryptid though.
No.
So the features: the Mungwa is said to be as big as the biggest lions, with greyish fur and brindled tabby-like stripes and markings. It is readily distinguished from the lion and the leopard by locals, as its tracks are said to resemble a leopard's, but the size of a lion's. According to some eyewitnesses, it purrs instead of roars.
Can this not be like a liger? They exist, right?
Yes.
Maybe not in that part of the world, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But, it's a beautiful creature. I mean, I think it'll be on this week's episode artwork, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So its origin, the Nunda appears in the traditional Swahili folktale Sultan Majnun. Again, these words I'm probably not doing any justice.
They're here to test you. That's the only reason why they exist.
In this tale, a cat belonging to the Sultan begins killing domestic animals and eventually people, including 3 of the Sultan's sons, before turning into a Nunda. The 4th son hunts down the Nunda, and after killing a dog, 2 types of civet, a zebra, a giraffe, a rhinoceros, and an elephant, is led by his slaves to the animal, which is asleep under a tree. It is the size of a donkey, with brindled fur, huge claws, and enormous teeth. So you're probably wondering, has it been sighted? Since
has it?
Bizarre. It has, especially the 1900s. A series of alleged Mungwa attacks occurred in the village of Lindi in 1922 when Captain William Hitchins was a native magistrate. And this is what he said. It was the custom for the native traders to leave their belongings in the village market every night, ready for the morning's trade, and to prevent theft, and also to stop stray natives sleeping in the marketplace. An askari, or native constable, took it in turns with 2 others to guard the market on a 4-hour watch. Going to relieve the midnight watch, an oncoming native constable one night found his comrade missing. After a search, he discovered him terribly mutilated underneath a stool. The man ran to his European officer, who went with me at once to the market. We found it obvious that the askari had been attacked and killed by some animal. A lion, it seemed. In the victim's hand was clenched a matted mass of greyish hair, such as would come out of a lion's mane were it grasped and torn in a violent fight. But in many years, no lion has been known to come into that town. Hitchins was puzzling over the problem the next morning when the Arab governor of the district arrived, with 2 scared-looking men at his heels. The men claimed that out late the previous night they said they had slunk by the marketplace lest the askari should see them and think they're evildoers. And as they crept by, they were horrified to see a gigantic brindled cat. The great mysterious Nunda, which is feared in every village on the coast, leap from the shadows of the market and bear the policeman to the ground. The old Arab governor assured Hitchens that the Mungwa, which he described, had visited Lindy several times in his memory. That night Hitchens kept watch with 2 armed askaris at the market, but nothing happened. So the next day's parade he read the natives' constables a lecture on the stupidity of superstitions. However, that night another constable was killed, and clutched in his hands and scattered about the buckles of his uniform was more of that grey matted fur. Whilst the terrified villagers paid a medicine man to scare off the Mungwa,
Of course it did.
Hitchens sent the fur off for expert examination, but the only reply he received was that it was probably a cat.
That's helpful.
Several more attacks occurred at other small coastal villages over the following month, and a number of people arrived at Lindy to inform Hitchens that a huge grey striped animal like a cat, but as big as a donkey, was seizing men by night. Although traps and poisons were set and armed police were posted around the district, the animal was never caught, and eventually the attacks ended as suddenly as they had begun. During the 1930s, another series of alleged Mungwa killings occurred in Hitchens district.
Interesting. But could it not have been just a rogue, old, big cat subscription?
It could be. I mean, sometimes you get, I don't want to say deformities, but sometimes you get like animals that are just sort of grossly large.
Yep. Well, it's nature, isn't it? So they can come in different forms and not all look the same. But surely it might even be an old cat, given the colour of its fur and its rough description. Sounds like it could be an old one. Perhaps it can't hunt for food and ventures into towns to perhaps get easy prey. That's what big cats do, say in India, when there's unfortunate instances where animals come across human beings. That kind of thing happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
but there's been nothing since the 1930s.
No, but I presume we'll sort of round all this up at the end of a wash up and discuss our thoughts. Oh, we've got some questions.
Of course. Okay, good. We're coming a little bit close to home, Dan.
Oh boy,
Scotland.
Okay, still far enough.
Yeah, about 400 kilometres, 500 kilometres. The Grey Man of Ben Macdui.
Pardon?
Yep. The Grey Man of Ben Macdui. Now is a mysterious entity associated with Ben Macdui, the highest peak in the Cairngorms mountain range in Scotland.
I just really want to do a Scottish accent right now. Ben Macdui.
What I want to say to our listeners are, if you do want to make any complaints, please make them to onthetopic@gmail.com, but address them to Dan, not to me, because I'm not going to be complicit in any kind of inferred racism or otherwise.
Does it help that I am partially Scottish? I do have Scottish blood.
I mean, we can take it to a poll and ask our listeners whether that is enough to save your skin, but I'm going to go with no.
I'm going to probably end up with angry people at my door, aren't I?
More than usual. Probably tenfold.
Oh boy.
I can't do accents by now, listener. You know that, so I'm not going to try it. It's better than I could have ever done, to be fair. But yes, this is in the Cairngorms mountain range of Scotland. So the Grey Man is described as a shadowy figure or presence encountered by hikers and mountaineers in the area.
Of course.
Now, reported sightings and encounters with the Grey Man often occur in adverse weather conditions. It's not always the way. When you can't really see it,
yeah,
it's always there, isn't it?
It's like either a really horrible rainy day or grizzly fog.
Misty.
Yeah.
Or it's at the dead of night. There's always not the ability to be able to see, bad visibility. It's always the way.
Could it not just be an abnormally large man?
Well,
in the silhouette.
Perhaps. I mean, the presence of the Grey Man is said to be accompanied by an eerie feeling of being watched or followed. Now, some accounts describe hearing footsteps or sensing a looming presence nearby. Now, I must say though, Dan, this is an interesting thing. And this is where they do refer to the sixth sense. Have you ever been in a room or been out on your own or with someone else and you've got that feeling you're being watched and you're perhaps not fully aware of the presence, but suddenly something switches in your mind and you become very focused on it and you almost go in the direction of where that thing is and there is something there? So there's someone watching you, or there is a cat or a dog, but there's almost that connection between you and the thing that's watching you, but it's not being done by sound or by movement. You just know acutely that they're there.
Just a sense.
Does that happen to you?
I tend to get a lot when I do paranormal investigations.
Okay.
So, again, if people haven't listened to them, go check out our Halloween episodes, because I talk about them a lot.
Great. Yeah.
But yeah, usually that's what sort of tends to happen. You can walk past the room, but you suddenly... I don't know how to describe it. You sort of just get that sense that someone or something is watching you, or it's there, and then you're sort of drawn to the location. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
Well, I've had it before, I'm sure listening you have too. It's unmistakable, and you can't really explain it, because actually there's no explanation for it, because there's seemingly no sound or no movement to draw your attention, but it exists. And apparently it's what's happened here when you do experience the grey man on this mountain range. Now, apparently his appearance and nature vary depending on the stories and experiences shared, but of course you would do if it's dense fog, blizzards or heavy mist.
Yeah.
Now, some describe it as a large figure, whilst others perceive it as an invisible entity. Now, it's often associated with a sense of dread or foreboding, with some claiming that the entity tries to drive people away from the mountain or intimidate them. Let's put a spin on it. Maybe it's there to save their lives, because it's dangerous they go further forward.
I was just thinking that, actually.
You know what I mean?
It's just there as a warning. So maybe you should, it's dangerous.
Heed the warning, but don't necessarily think of it as an evil entity or something that's nefarious.
It could be kind-hearted.
Maybe. Folklore and speculation surrounding the Grey Man of Ben McDewey have led to various theories attempting to explain its existence. Now, some attribute the encounter to weather-related phenomena such as infrasound or optical illusions caused by atmospheric conditions. Others interpret the Grey Man as a guardian spirit or a manifestation of the mountain itself. Now, the mystery of the Grey Man continues to intrigue those who venture into the Cairngorms, adding to an element of the supernatural to the already awe-inspiring landscape. Now, whether rooted in folklore, natural phenomena, or the imagination, the Grey Man remains a fascinating part of the mountain's lore. Now, I've got a photo and image here for Dan. Again, I'll put it on the WordPress. And the image we've got here is we've got some grass in the foreground. In the background, it's very, very foggy. Somewhere there's moonlight or there's sun, and there's a silhouette, almost unmistakably, but it could actually be mistaken for something else, of a figure.
It doesn't look quite real. It looks almost photoshopped.
Perhaps. And I think this is what we kind of got to take with a large pinch of salt, because actually a lot of these things, if there are photographic evidence, you just can't validate the validity of the image you're looking at. And this one, it could either be someone who has taken the picture, with a shadow behind them, and it's all been orchestrated, and they then put it onto the foreground of an actual outside photo. They could have used AI, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we talked about in more recent times. So I don't know, but isn't it funny that it's always when you can't really see it and you feel something there? I mean, I have been to some mountain ranges. Admittedly, I've still yet to go to Scotland and to enjoy the Ben Nevis delights, but I have been to Scarfell Pike, amongst others. And when it is raining and fogging and snowing, you do get a sense of you're on a different planet, on the moon, or you are very much alone, because fog is very close, and if it's quite dense, you obviously can't see farther than maybe a couple of meters at best, and you almost do feel as though there's things all around you, or the unknown you can't see around you, and anything could be there. So I can understand the feelings. At the moment, these are just sightings from what I can read. I can't find any kind of examples where the Grey Man has claimed any lives or assaulted people. It's more of an apparition.
Yeah. You said yourself in your notes, supernatural.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's an interesting one. And again, if there is something there, who's to say there isn't someone to help guide travellers and ward them off almost certain peril or danger? Mountain climbing is a dangerous pastime. So,
quite.
I think it's an interesting one. There's a couple from Scotland. I think that's my only one for this episode. But it's an interesting one. Yeah. Let us know your thoughts, guys. I know mountain climbing isn't, just for those who perhaps are thrill seekers. There are people who do it, on the odd weekend here or there. If you've seen anything or you can relate to that, get in contact, let us know. But I think it's an interesting concept.
Oh, definitely. Next one from me. Let's head to the Pacific coast of North America. Have you heard, or have you got this in your notes? Cadborosaurus.
Come again?
Cadborosaurus.
Bless you.
Caddy.
No.
Its name is derived from the Cadborough Bay in Greater Victoria, British Columbia, and the Greek root word saurus, meaning lizard or reptile, which of course we know from dinosaurs. Location. There have been more than 300 claimed sightings during the past 200 years, including Deep Cove in Saanich Inlet, the Island View Beach, both of which are also on the Saanich Peninsula, and at San Francisco Bay, California.
Oh, right.
Its features is said to resemble a serpent with vertical coils or humps in tandem behind the horse-like head and long neck.
Always with a horse-like head.
Yeah.
Or some pictures actually look more like a capybara. Don't you think?
Yeah. It has a pair of small elevating front flippers and either a pair of hind flippers or a pair of large webbed hind flippers fused to form a large fan-like tail region that provides forward propulsion.
Interesting.
Now, it has been misidentified. The first one was as a sea lion in 1943 by two police officers, Inspector Robert Owens and Staff Sergeant Jack Russell. Now, it was only with a pair of binoculars Sergeant Russell saw that the strange apparition was a huge bull sea lion heading a herd of 6 sea lions.
Huh.
The next one was a giant oarfish. Now, this species can reach up to 17 metres in length, that's 56 feet, and weigh up to 300 kilograms, which is 660 pounds. They're long and silvery, and they undulate like a serpent would as they swim through water. And it has also been mistaken for a basking shark. The carcass of a decomposing basking shark is often mistaken for caddy and has fooled experts and laymen. Now, it has been sighted. Let's start in 1968. In August, W. Hageland claims to have caught a baby caddy near De Courcy Island, only to return it to the water.
Sure.
1991. In July, on Johns Island, San Juan Islands, Phyllis Harsh claims to have caught a small 2-foot, 60-centimetre baby caddy. He returned it to water. Now, in 2009, fisherman Kelly Nash purportedly filmed several minutes of footage featuring 10 to 15, including young, creatures in Nishagak Bay. Again, probably not doing any justice to these beautiful places. In 2011, a very short segment of the footage was shown on the Discovery TV show Hill Stranded, where the Hill Stranded brothers from Deadliest Catch apparently saw Nash's footage and unsuccessfully attempted to find one of the creatures.
Sure.
So is it real? I'm not sure. It just seems a bit concerning that two people have apparently caught one
And then throw it back
and throw it in the water.
Would you, Dan? I mean, I've never gone fishing before. I've always wanted to. It's a pastime I wanted to do as a child. Vaguely have interest as an adult now. But if you caught something, you're like, no, this is not normal. I need to do something about this. Pre-iPhone ease of photography, would you really throw it back?
No.
I know people do. Anglers do catch and release. I understand that concept, but something that odd. The whole point of fishing, is it not, to show off your prowess of catching the big, the big fish?
Because I mean, we must. I know I've got friends, and you sometimes see
You do have friends. It's true.
Yes, they go fishing, and they always upload their trophy catch, and these fish are huge. I mean, you'd want the evidence, right?
I think so.
But if pre sort of smartphones where you don't necessarily have a camera, you'd want to take it back to shore. Surely, I don't know how you keep it alive when you're on a boat. Yeah, I've been fishing though. I went in New Zealand, a Potiki. We stayed at some bloke's house. Yeah. Took us fishing. And it was a lovely morning. Got up very early, and we just beat the tide going up, coming back.
Oh, good.
It was lovely. Got lots of fish, and that was our dinner.
Beautiful part of the world to do it as well.
Yeah. Made some beer batter. It was beautiful.
Get me hungry.
Yeah. Just had dinner as well.
Bad times. Is that it?
That's it.
Good. All right. We're going back to Africa now. This is where I get cancelled. The Mokale Mbembe.
Is that a footballer?
Try that again. The Mokale Mbembe. Sounds like
yeah, I think you've done that some justice there.
Yeah.
Mokale Mbembe.
That'll do. Is a legendary creature believed to inhabit the dense rainforests and swamps of the Congo River Basin. Now, particularly in the regions of the Cameroon, Republic of Congo and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Not being funny, but they're quite dense jungle areas. So again, shock. There's going to be some mystery and intrigue, and not well-trodden areas. Now, it's often described as a large dinosaur-like creature resembling a sauropod. I guess not too dissimilar to what you described, Dan. The name Mokale Mbembe translates to one who stops flows of rivers in the Lingala language, which reflects a belief that the creature has the ability to control water or cause disruptions in river currents. Now, the legend of this animal has been part of local folklore and among indigenous tribes in the region for centuries. Now, sightings of the creature described as having a long neck, a small head, a robust body, whatever that means, and a long tail. So I guess not too dissimilar to Nessie.
And Caddy.
Now, some witnesses claim to have seen a crest or frill on its head. Now, it's often described as being the size of an elephant or a large elephant, with estimates ranging from 15 to 35 feet in length. Now, cryptozoologists and explorers have embarked on expeditions to search for evidence of this animal, and some accounts suggest the creature may be a surviving dinosaur, specifically a sauropod thought to have been extinct millions of years ago. However, shock, there is no conclusive evidence to have been confirmed of its existence. Now, the Mokale Mbembe continues to be a subject of fascination and speculation among the cryptozoology enthusiasts. There's been expeditions, interviews and investigations which still persist in an attempt to uncover evidence of this elusive creature. Now, this legend adds to the allure and mystery of the African continent's rich wildlife and folklore. A lovely pencil drawing here, Dan. If you ignore the lush green foliage and you superimpose that upon the cold lakeside of a loch, that is a Loch Ness monster.
Yeah,
it's that kind of image, listener. It's a long dinosaur, thin neck, small head, and the bump in the water.
Yeah.
And again, it's difficult to be able to prove but also disprove these things when you're in remote parts of the world, in dense jungle and foliage. But again, there's no signs of dead ones hanging around.
No. Does make you think.
What are you thinking about?
Does this thing really exist?
Oh, right. Yeah. Not sure. The jury's out on that one.
Well, next up, we're going to Asia for almas.
Oh, right.
First described in historical records in the 1400s, an almas is not used to refer to one organism, but a community of many. These individuals are described as a subspecies of hominids, the group humans and primates like orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees belong to.
Oh, yeah.
In Caucasian folklore, an almas, alma or almasty is a cryptid folk creature said to inhabit the Caucasus, Tian Shan and Pamir Mountains of Central Asia and the Altai Mountains of Western Mongolia.
Mongolia again.
Now, what does it look like? The common height range for an almas is 5 feet tall, but adults can be as high as 6 to 6.5 feet.
So, humans.
Pretty much. They do look a little bit weirder.
And actually, I don't think there's anything wrong with this because it's facts and I've seen it. I think you have too. People in Asia typically are shorter, so the average height is shorter in Asia. I'm not a particularly tall person, listener. You may know this after listening for years on the topic in the weekly roundup. I'm about 5'6". In Asia, that is slightly taller than the average man.
Yeah.
I felt like a king there.
But they
It's
do
lovely.
treat you like you're some sort of royalty. It was quite bizarre. So I went travelling in 2008 and going to places like China and Hong Kong, because you're sort of quite tall, they think you're rich. And, you know, sadly, I'm not.
You've
But
got loads
they
of money.
do genuinely think that you're...
A rich, tall, white guy.
Yeah.
And just by that description, surely that is not mistakenly someone local to that area, or perhaps someone who, yes, abnormal, I guess, for the average height of a man, but you do have tall people in the world in parts where, you know, they are not average. It just seems like that's just a very coincidental height range there, which covers basically any mature male adult.
But does this sound human? The skull structure of an almas possesses a protruding brow ridge, slanting forehead, flat nose and large protruding jaw. Their feet are large and their fingers are long. Their appendages are completely covered with hair, except for their hands. Their bodies are covered entirely with thick brown to reddish brown hair. The facial regions remains uncovered, but patches of skin are dark. Now, Nikolai... Oh, Jesus Christ.
So we go again.
Right, I think I've got it. Nikolai Prevovalsky,
You don't have it.
no, describes the almas as related to him under the name Kung Guresu, which is man-beast, and he describes it as follows. We were told that it had a flat face like that of a human being, and that it often walked on 2 legs, and its body was covered with a thick black fur, and its feet armed with enormous claws, that its strength was terrible. I mean, I don't know why you describe it as terrible. Surely if it's something... It must be, like, super strong, right?
I guess if it's ripping your arms off from its sockets, it is terrible.
Yeah. And that not only were hunters afraid of attacking it, but that the inhabitants removed their habitations from those parts of the country which it visited. So, sightings. In the 1800s, a man claimed to have domesticated a female almas named Zana. The creature, after being held within numerous enclosures for many years, was trained to carry out daily tasks such as grinding grain for flour and hauling firewood. Zana, however, never learned to speak, instead using grunts and mutterings. The almas was very athletic, fond of swimming, and apparently had a taste for wine.
That's just described me to a T. Well,
Wow.
maybe not the athletic part.
And it's a female. Zana later mated with a local man, and they had 4 children. A tooth sample from one of the children was tested, so they could be real, but there's no record of this tooth,
Shock.
of course. Accounts from Russian historian Professor Boris Porshnev in 1964 reported to have encountered the descendants of the almasty, which were grouped in families that dwelled in holes in the ground. Porshnev further describes the human-like beings as having excellent swimming and running abilities, so it does sort of tie into those stories from the 1800s. They have a foul odour and a diet that consists of small mammals, vegetables and fruits. The Almsty, as nomadic creatures, have travelled beyond the areas of Mongolia in which they are frequently sighted by farmers and villagers. Stories and reports dating from the last 50 years have located the Almas community around the Caucasus Mountains near Russia and the Black Sea. Artefacts and evidence of the existence of Almas communities have also been found in the Pamir Mountains of Central Asia. One of the most recent expeditions that aimed to locate the Almas was led by Russian cryptozoologist
Well done, yeah.
Dr. Marie-Jean Kaufmann and Frenchman Sylvain Palais. It's got an X on it. I'm sure you don't pronounce an X like that. Let's just call him Sylvain. In 1992. Similar to the findings of Porshnev, the data gathered by Kaufmann describes the Almasty as large hairy creatures weighing as much as 500 pounds.
It's really quite a large creature.
It's a bit like the Big Show from WWE. He was about 500 pounds, if I recall.
Well, actually? Wow.
He's a big man. He was like 7 foot something, though.
Jesus.
They are nocturnal creatures that can run as fast as 40 miles per hour. However, only solid evidence Kaufmann was able to collect was hair samples, footprints, and poo.
How does it know it can run 40 miles an hour?
If you haven't seen it.
What year was this?
This is quite recently, so 1992.
So I've googled it, Dan. That's Bigfoot.
Looks like Bigfoot.
They're all of some kind of hairy humanoid kind of aspect.
Are we just going to acknowledge for a moment there that Almas has got his arm under a saggy boob?
Yeah.
That is genuinely a thing.
Yeah, well, they've got, they've got to be able to nurture and feed their young.
But someone drew that. It's fine, I get it, because they're almost sort of humanids or whatever they were called, but why would someone draw it like that?
Why not? There you go.
Just a mere observation.
But somewhere in Russia, someone made sweet love to that animal and made offspring.
They did.
And now they're running around 40 miles an hour, leaving their poo everywhere and scaring inhabitants of Mongolia.
Yeah.
Is that real? Don't know.
Might be something more in that one, though.
Do you reckon?
Possibly.
Okay.
Who knows?
My last one, Dan. The Hopkinsville Goblins.
No, I haven't got that one.
Also known as the Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter, is an infamous incident that took place in August 1955 in Kelly and Hopkinsville, Kentucky, in the United States.
Okay.
Is that a southern state, Kentucky, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Hey, y'all.
Is it? Do you do another American example?
Probably shouldn't.
Two-footed, go anyway.
Hey, y'all.
That's not bad. Well, it's not bad to someone who obviously is not from that part of the world.
No, I'm not American. I don't have any American blood. I've got nothing to defend me on that one.
No. I think it's defenceless. Indefensible, some might say. American listeners will know you're out there. If you can just rate Dan in terms of his his Kentucky accent, that'd be
southern accent.
I'd really like to hear your thoughts and perhaps your anger. Again, don't do it to me, listener. It involved a family claimed to have encountered small extraterrestrial aliens creatures at their farmhouse.
Just seeing the picture, it looks quite bizarre.
It does. Now, the story that on the night of August the 21st, 1955, the Sutton family and their guests experienced a series of bizarre events. Now, the reporters seeing strange lights in the sky and hearing sounds resembling gunfire. Now, later that night, the family claimed to have encountered small, humanoid creatures that they described as around 3 to 4 feet tall, with pointed ears, claw-like hands, and glowing eyes. Now, these creatures are said to have metallic or silver-coloured skin and moved in peculiar hopping or floating motion. Now, the family members, frightened by the creatures, allegedly engaged in a shootout to defend themselves, firing at these goblins for several hours.
Looks a bit like Paul from. Do you remember the film with Simon Pegg in it?
If you had the relationship between Paul and Stitch in Lilo and Stitch, that's what I think he probably looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Disney film.
It's like a hybrid.
With the gremlin, perhaps, from Gremlins.
Do you know what? I wouldn't mind meeting one of these things. It looks quite cute.
Well, people are shooting at it, so perhaps they're not.
Christ.
For hours, apparently. Now, however, these creatures appear to be unfazed by the gunfire, obviously, because it happened over a couple of hours, and they vanished, of course, before dawn. Now, news of the encounter quickly spread, attracting attention from media and ufologists. Now, investigative teams visited the site and examined the farmhouse, but guess what? No conclusive evidence was found to support the family's claims. Now, skeptics believe that the encounter was likely a case of mistaken identity, possibly involving owls or other animals that triggered fear and confusion. That'd be funny though, but those animals, loud sounds, they do scarper.
Yeah.
Gunshots, if people are unfortunate to hear of a gunshot in anger, those things are loud and they're scary.
I'd run.
100%. Now, while the Hopkinsville goblins remain a prominent part of UFO lore, it is often cited as a classic close encounter case, the actual true nature of the alleged creatures and the events that night remain a subject of debate. The incident continued to captivate those interested in the realms of extraterrestrial encounters and the paranormal. It's an interesting one. Again, the skeptic in me says, well, there's no evidence, and again, it happened at night. And regardless of whether you're from this planet or you're not, you're going to be scared of a gunfire.
Yeah. Loud
sounds. It's not a natural thing to gravitate towards. I don't know. That bothers me a little bit. But hey, August 1955. There's no other sites since, so it is an actual tale of local folklore. It's a one and only encounter.
Oh, interesting. I mean, you could literally do an episode of cryptids on the States alone, because when you look at the map, there's just, yeah, I mean, we're probably talking hundreds. I mean, you already put me out of business with, I mean, you've got an extra 20 for a volume 2, maybe a volume 3. It's insane. But talking of the United States, have you heard of the Michigan Dogman?
No, I haven't.
So in folklore, the Michigan Dogman was allegedly witnessed in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan. This creature was unknown to most of the modern world until very late in the 20th century. It is said to have been stalking the area around Manistee River since the days when the Odawi tribes lived there. The creature is described as a 7-foot tall, blue-eyed or amber-eyed bipedal canine-like animal with the torso of a man and a fearsome howl that sounds like a human scream.
So a werewolf.
Now this is where it gets a little bit... You might have heard an audible sigh there, listener. According to legends, the Michigan Dogman appears in a 10-year cycle that falls on years ending in 7.
Oh, right, that's convenient.
Yes. Sightings. Sightings have been reported in several locations throughout Michigan, primarily in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula. The first alleged encounter of the Michigan Dogman occurred in 1887. There you go, there's that magical number 7. In Wexford County, when 2 lumberjacks saw a creature which they described as having a man's body and a dog's head. In 1937, in Paris, Michigan, Robert Fortney was attacked by 5 wild dogs and said that one of the 5 walked on 2 legs. Linda S. Godfrey, in her book The Beast of Bray Road, compares the Manistee sightings So a similar creature sighted in Wisconsin, known as the Beast of Bray Road.
Okay.
But it just sounds like, again, one of those stories that you tell kids to make them eat their vegetables. Oh no, you better not go outside in 2027, because the Michigan dog man, he's going to get you.
He's going to get you. So eat your greens.
So eat your greens. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
In 2027.
You got a few years yet, but he's going to get you.
So where is he then? If he's not in the off years where he's not, it's not a 20, it's not a 7. What's he doing?
Just sounds a bit convenient to me.
Is he hibernating?
I mean, for 10 years.
Is he a werewolf?
Does he just come out for a snack and he's like, do you know what, I'm done now.
Yeah.
Hibernate 10 years.
I'm full.
Just seems a bit bizarre. I do have one more.
Yeah, tell me.
Now let's head down under. Let's go to Australia. We're going to talk about the yowie. Oh no, you're doing British now.
That was bad on
This is getting us cancelled. This episode is 100% getting us cancelled.
Yep. It was a nice run while it lasted.
Now, yowie is one of several names for an Australian folklore entity that was reputed to live in the outback.
Again, a very nice fucking place in the world where it's devoid of human life, lots of nature, lots of scary things that can kill you, because Australia, lo and behold, there is something out there that can kill you.
Yeah.
Shock.
Might not be those dingoes that are killing people after all.
Dingoes?
Dingo ate my baby. Buffy reference there.
Is it?
Do you remember that? Yeah, Seth Green's band. I think it was like season 2, season 3. Yeah. In parts of Queensland, they are known as quinkin, or as a type of quinkin,
nice.
and as jugabina in parts of New South Wales. They are called, for fuck's sake, Jindaring, Juwawara, Mingawin, Putikan.
I like it.
Dulaga, Gallagher, and Thulagal. Other names include Yoroma, Nukuna, Wawi, Pankalangu,
Wow,
Jimbra, and Jingara.
I mean, I've got to say, you've done a really good job.
I've tried.
I wonder whether someone has put those words in there as a joke to try and trip you up. But
Probably.
I mean, you've handled that spectacularly.
And bearing in mind, I've had to swap from my tablet to my phone, and I'm looking at smaller text here.
And you're 3 wines in.
Yeah, oh
It's
god,
not
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
I'm already doing impressions of my Scottish ancestors. Yowie-type creatures are common in Aboriginal Australian legends, particularly in the eastern Australian states. So you're probably wondering, what the heck does a yowie look like?
Tell me.
The yowie usually described as a hairy and ape-like creature. Here we go again. Standing upright at between 2.1 metres, which is 6'11", and 3.6 metres, which is 12 foot. So that's nearly twice the size of me. That's 2 me.
Two lots of hairy Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The yowie's feet are described as much larger than humans, but alleged yowie tracks are inconsistent in shape and toe number. And the descriptions of yowie foot and footprints provided by yowie witnesses are even more varied than most of Bigfoot.
What?
The yowie's nose is described as wide and flat. Behaviourally, some report the yowie as timid or shy. Others describe the yowie as sometimes violent or aggressive. Now, we've had a few sightings, so I'm going all over Australia for this one. So bear with me. So 19th century, in the 1850s, accounts of indigenous apes appeared in the Australian Town and Country Journal. The earliest accounts in November 1876 asked readers who was not heard from the earliest settlement of the colony, the blacks speaking of some unearthly animal or inhumane creature, namely the Yahoo devil or hairy man of the wood. In an article entitled Australian Apes, appearing 6 years later, amateur naturalist Henry James McCooey claimed to have seen an indigenous ape on the south coast of New South Wales between Batesman's Bay and Ulladulla.
Ulladulla.
sure I'm doing a lot of this justice. Come on, Dan, you've got this, mate. McCooey offered to capture an ape for the Australian Museum for £40.
Bargain.
Probably a lot of money back then, but I mean, these days that's
It's not your
peanuts.
10,000 in your zoo, is it, for the other one?
No. According to Robert Holden, a second outbreak of reported ape sightings appeared in 1912. But let's head to the present day.
Yeah, tell me.
According to top-end Yowie investigator Andrew McGinn, the death and mutilation of a pet dog near Darwin could have been the result of an attack of the mythological Yowie. The dog's owners believed dingoes were responsible.
Dingo. My question is, if a top-end Yowie investigator exists, what about a low-end one? What does a low-end one think of?
I want to know.
What do they look like?
Is it a wish.com?
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Or a Fiverr version. You know the website Fiverr? Have you heard of Fiverr?
No.
Have you not?
No.
Yeah, it's really it's questionable because of it's effectively tantamount in some instances to slave labour or ridicule. But you can pay someone. I think the minimum amount is $5 of whatever your local currency is, but it's $5, £5, whatever, €5, and you can ask someone to do something from a creative standpoint. So, can you create me a new logo that is of cryptozoology and about humanoids? And they go, yeah, fine. What colours do you want? I want it to be brown with red glowing eyes and a pointed tail. Fine. And they'll do it within a couple of hours, and they'll return it back to you. And they charge you a £5.
Could just use AI, to be honest.
It's going to put Fiverr out of business. But it's maybe it's something like that. A lower end. A lower end. What is it?
Yowie. Where was it in my notes?
Yowie investigator.
Yowie investigator.
Okay.
So Australian Capital Territory. In 2010, a Canberra man said he saw an animal described as a juvenile covered in hair, with long arms and almost touched the ground in his garage. A friend later told him it could be a Yowie.
Oh, right. Were these guys drinking by any chance?
Probably not as much as I am. New South Wales. Accounts of Yowie sightings in New South Wales include in 1977.
Great year.
The Sydney Morning Herald reported that residents on Oxley Island near Taree recently heard screaming noises made by an animal at night.
Foxes.
And that cryptozoologist Rex Gilroy would soon arrive to search for the mythological Yowie.
Do they have foxes in Australia? Foxes make screaming sounds.
Or just dingoes.
Dingoes.
Yeah, foxes don't make... their noises are weird, aren't they?
They're horrible.
It's horrendous.
It does sound like a woman's being attacked. If anyone... I think we talked about this before. I think we have in the Weekly Roundup days. But you don't get foxes that often in Portsmouth. You see them, but you don't hear them.
We've got some in the school opposite to us.
Do you hear them?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
But when I lived with my parents up in Drayton, which is off the island, you find them more up along there for sure.
Because when they're getting down dirty and getting to business, that screaming is actually...
It's horrendous.
But do you know why they're screaming?
Because the male's got a nasty penis.
Yeah. So I don't know how we... I mean, this is a typical segue on the topic. But we're getting into the main anatomy of a fox, a common fox of a UK variety. To ensure success of, I guess, insemination, for a better term, the penis of the fox has a hook on it.
Jesus Christ.
So when it is inside the female, it hooks inside and they can't be parted.
Yeah.
And so all of that lovely goodness, which I don't think I've ever said before, committed to recording, is going to be inside that female and is not going to be otherwise elsewhere.
To be fair, we are talking about cryptids. I suppose this is on point. It's
a bit gross.
It's a nice little segue.
But it's a fact. So that's why they're screaming, because they can't. Either of them can't part until nature takes its course.
Sounds like a fox screaming now, but it could just be a child.
I think it's a child. It's wildlife of Portsmouth, but a different kind. Anyway, yeah, it just could be the mating sounds of local wildlife.
It could be. So let's head back to New South Wales. So in 1996, while on a driving holiday, a couple from Newcastle claimed to have seen a yowie between Braidwood and the coast. They said it was a shaggy creature walking upright, standing at the height of at least 2.1 metres tall, with disproportionately long arms and no neck.
Oh.
Very odd. We're getting more recent now. So in August 2000, a Canberra bushwalker described seeing an unknown bipedal beast in the Brindabella Mountains. The bushwalker, Steve Piper, caught the incident on videotape. That film is known as the Piper film.
Huh.
So it's out there. In March 2011, a witness reported to NSW National Parks and Wildlife Service seeing a yowie in the Blue Mountains of Springwood, west of Sydney. Have you?
Mm.
Nice.
Beautiful. Lots of flies though.
No one likes flies.
No.
The witness had filmed the creature and taken photographs of its footprints. In May 2012, an American television crew claimed to have recorded audio of a yowie in a remote region on the Queensland border. Now, in June 2013, a Lismore resident and music videographer claimed to have seen a yowie just north of Bexhill.
Where's the video though?
Yeah.
If you're a videographer, where's your bloody video?
Exactly. We want to see this video, fella. Onto the Northern Territory. In the late 1990s, there were several reports of yowie sightings in the area around Acacia Hills. I think I've done that right. One such sighting was by mango farmer Katrina Tucker, who reported in 1997 having been just metres away from a hairy humanoid creature on her property. Photographs of the footprint were collected at the time. Over to Queensland. The Springbrook region of the southeast Queensland has had more yowie reports than anywhere else in Australia. So in 1977, former Queensland Senator Bill O'Chee reported to the Gold Coast Bulletin he had seen a yowie while on a school trip in Springbrook. O'Chee compared the creature he saw to the character Chewbacca from Star Wars. He had told reporters that the creature he saw had been over 3 metres tall.
Wow.
And again, if these things are that big, why haven't we seen a dead one?
They're going to stand out.
Definitely. A persistent story is that of the Mulgowie yowie, which was last reported as having been seen in 2001. In March 2014, 2 yowie searchers claimed to have filmed the yowie in South Queensland using an infrared tree camera, collected fur samples and found large footprints. Later that year, a Gympie man, that can't be right, Gympie. A Gympie man told media he had encountered yowies on several occasions, including conversing with and teaching some English to a very large male yowie in the bush northeast of Gympie. And several people in Port Douglas claim to have seen yowies near Mowbray and at the Rocky Point Range.
Wow. So one's even teaching it.
Yes.
Teaching it how to speak.
Very fascinating. So we've been all over the world. We've had various cryptids. And it doesn't really end there. So much so that we'll probably end up doing a volume 2 maybe next year.
We've got loads.
Yeah.
I was doing, when I went quiet before, I was having a look, and I've got 6 from the US alone, from a possible 20 more.
Yeah, it's loads.
There's loads in America. It seems to be the hotbed of the paranormal and the unexplained.
So we should probably head over to the listener. Right, Alex, I think you've got Luke covered for this one.
Maybe.
He said Mothman is one that fascinates me.
Me too, Luke.
So much so, it's in your notes.
It is. The Mothman is a cryptid associated with the town of Point Pleasant in West Virginia in the United States. Now, it's gained widespread attention and notoriety due to a series of reported sightings in the 60s. Now, the Mothman describes a humanoid creature with a wingspan of 10 to 15 feet, large reflective eyes, and a body covered in grey or brown feathers or scales. It's often portrayed as having a moth-like or bird-like appearance, hence its name. Now, witnesses claim it emits a high-pitched screech or a buzzing sound. The first notable sightings of the Mothman occurred between November 66 and December 67. Some witnesses reported encounters with the creature, which allegedly displayed an interest in humans, but also caused feelings of fear and unease. Second time we've heard of that. First one was our man in Scotland. Now, some accounts linked the Mothman to the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant in December 67, leading to tragic deaths. Have you heard about this?
No.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of buses and a couple of cars that were crossing this bridge in Point Pleasant, and apparently, so goes the tale, that within a couple of days of people sighting the Mothman, something terrible on a large scale happens to people in that area. One so happened was there was a couple of sightings a couple of days before, a couple of nights before this event, and sure enough, the bridge collapsed and many people lost their lives. So the event happened, people did perish, and sadly they did die. There's been other events where the Mothman's been sighted, and there's been barn fires or something horrific has happened within the community, and it's almost like a premonition to something happening afterwards.
Wowzers.
Horrific. However, of course, there's no evidence directly connecting the Mothman to the bridge disaster I mentioned. Now, the legend of the Mothman has since gained cult following, of course, inspired books, documentaries, and a famous film. Point Pleasant hosts an annual Mothman festival, drawing enthusiasts from around the world. Why not lean into it? And the cryptid has become a symbol of curiosity, mystery, and the unexplained. Now, with the Mothman sightings have subsided, since the 1960s, it remains an enduring legend, of course, capturing many imagination. There's a picture here, Dan. This is a photo. Monday, 21st November 2016. A man says he was driving along State Route 2, saw something jump from tree to tree. Now, he pulled off by the side of the road, which is good. You should never use your phone whilst you're driving, listener. Drive safely. And he snapped some pictures. Now, picture here, dead of night, shock. There's a silhouette of something that could be described as maybe a man with some wings strapped to him.
It literally does.
Falling gracefully. It's a silhouette. Again, it'd be on the WordPress.
The wings do look sort of very moth-like.
Yeah, they do, actually.
The way I was sort of looking at it originally, it looked like the legs were like the antennas. But, it's quite fascinating.
I see what you mean by that. If it's a bit like that, and it's actual moth. But no, I think it's that way. Yeah. Where you've got the wing going forward and he's almost diving with intent.
It's almost very angelic.
Yeah.
Maybe
odd. He's caught an angel.
He could have done. Did this person survive the encounter?
Well, this is the thing.
Is he still alive?
This is the thing, Dan. Shockingly, the man declined an on-camera interview. But he was adamant that pictures had not been doctored, and he said he had moved recently to the area for work and hadn't known about the legend. And I'm being funny, but 2016 there is a semi-famous, well-known film about that phenomena. It's been in books. You would have seen it as you drove into the area. I mean, sorry, when did I say that the event was they put on, this festival? I didn't, did I? I'm going to say it's probably going to be in and around probably the autumnal period, maybe around Halloween. That might be a guess. Yeah. This guy snapped it in November. I don't know. Call me a cynic, but if he's not going to be willing to give an interview, I don't know. But anyway, interesting one, Luke. The Mothman is one of the more popular covered cryptids, but there is a reoccurring theme, which I guess we can talk about in a couple of moments.
You never see a dead one.
Amongst other things. We've got some voice messages down.
We do. These come from Claire. So we've got 2 questions.
So my question is, are there any cryptids that you've seen while you've been researching this podcast that you 100% believe exist and are out there? For me, it's the Loch Ness Monster. I do 100% believe that there is a Nessie living in Scotland under the water. Fully believe that creature actually exists.
So it's a good question. I mean, we've said it before. I do think some of their where it's been made up as a bit of a bogeyman story.
Yeah.
But I can't help but think, given that some of these cryptids look very similar, you know, you've got the Yowie, Bigfoot, etc. Maybe there's something in it.
Do you reckon? There's often from time to time on social media some odd pages that target me because I guess of what I look and research on. And your phone's always listening to you, of course, as we know. And scientists do come across some very backwater locations, things which we're only just discovering. And if you think about things in the deep blue sea that are miles upon miles down at the bottom of a Mariana Trench, say, we've never seen them before. They look very alien because they're devoid of light, and they've been designed in a way to maximise, obviously, the ability to eat because food is scarce. We are recalling things that are floating to the top, or we're capturing things or seeing things on film, such as giant squid, is now things, no longer folklore. Say in Japan, where they capture and bring these things ashore, they're real and they're confirmed and they exist. So we are finding things out about this planet that perhaps were just, you know, destined for the history books or for fringe scientific discovery. It's like the cryptozoologist. For me, I wonder whether there are animals or variety of sorts that are perhaps of, I don't know, canine-like creatures that perhaps do go on their hind legs, they do look a certain way. Do I think they're sauropods like Nessie? Unlikely, just because they have got to at some point come up for air.
I could feel the tension then as you paused for your answer.
So sorry, Claire. For me, I'm not sure about Nessie. I do think there's something in that lock, by the way, but the lock doesn't have a very clear route out to open sea, or if at all. So I don't know. Do I think that there are humanoids or humanids out there who've got fur, glowing red eyes? No.
No,
I don't. Just because if they're still around and have been seen for centuries, where are their fucking dead bodies?
Yeah.
Where are the bones? Where are the teeth? Where are the fur? Where are these caves that they live in? Because they're not building houses. I mean, apparently they're learning English and they're having sex with villagers. But aside from that, the wild ones, so to speak, where are they living? And then we get into the realms of, well, okay, are there people living in the centre of the earth? And that is really off the reservation.
This is hitting conspiracy theory territory, but then it has been sort of on and off throughout the episode.
Yeah. What do you reckon then? Is there anything that you've talked about it? Anything that you think is likely?
It's like I said, there's so many mysteries in this world, and we've touched upon it before in previous episodes, that there are things that we still don't know, maybe we shouldn't know or necessarily understand, but it's there to be discovered.
Yeah.
Do I think there are creatures out there that we haven't seen or maybe had a glimpse of that we don't quite understand what it is yet? I think so. I just don't. Yeah. I mean, this is probably an unlikely answer for someone that believes in ghosts, you know, or believes in a paranormal, you know, something beyond the realms of death. So, yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. But equally, as someone that does these sorts of things in the paranormal community, I like to try and debunk it first, and if I can't explain it, then that's where I would sort of generally go, yeah, maybe there's something in it.
I was going to leave it to a summary, but perhaps now is a good point to do it, because I think it links in nicely to Claire's question, which is perfectly timed, which is, Overall, I just think a lot of these they're poorly accounted for, and they all take place in poor visibility at night. Now, you could say, well, these things only come out at night because they're scared of humans or the light or whatever. Fine, very convenient, but okay. But where are the dead ones? And in a day and age where people take videos and they have cameras in their pockets and there's social media, if these things were jumping from tree to tree, or they were by the side of the road, or they are in the jungle, or we've got satellites, or we've got people in helicopters, we've got people now speaking to indigenous tribes and all these kind of things. The world is becoming a smaller place, Dan.
Yeah.
And I fail to believe that something, or these things that are so prevalent perhaps in sightings and in local communities, we have still been unable to document their existence. I don't get it. Because if they're eating something, what are they eating? What are they surviving? What's their subsistence? Because they're eating livestock, or there will be dead animals, or there'll be signs of something, or they're competing with predators out in nature. What happened with those things?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just finding it very difficult to be able to say there are hairy men running around, and there are, by the way, but what they describe are hairy men running around in nature, on the natural world, or there's goat-like horned demonic beings with pointy tails. Show me, because camera footage hasn't found them, and where's the evidence in the digital world and age where we are now? We're not seeing them.
No.
But counter argument, I'm not helping myself here, Dan, is if someone did present it, what are we going to say?
It'll be an episode for another day.
Correct. Or more likely, it's going to be doctored, it's photoshopped, it's AI, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So we're not helping ourselves. I just think that leading up to this point, I fail to see there's that limited evidence.
Got one more question though.
Oh, okay.
My other question is, we've had a couple of Meg films with Jason Statham. Some people believe that sharks that size really do still exist, and we've just never seen them because they live too far down for humans to have ever seen them alive. But some people believe that that is a prehistoric version of the shark we have today. So which do you think is true? Do you think that the Meg actually exists and is therefore sort of a cryptid? Is it a cryptid? Or do you believe that that was like the dinosaur of the shark, and the shark we have now has evolved from the Meg?
I think you've kind of already covered that in your answer to the first question. But then, when you look at things like the Mariana Trench, how deep does that really go?
True. I mean, there are bones of these things existing, but when they do the carbon dating, it is millions of years old. Again, we haven't got any examples of recent carcasses or bones to suggest that they're still alive or have been in the last couple of millennia.
Or people being chomped.
Well, how would we know?
Quite.
They dead. I'm probably going to say probably the latter. So it's proven they are prehistoric animals. I would probably suggest that the sharks we've got now are ancestors of the bigger predators of the sea.
Yeah. Evolution
Indeed. I mean, if there are those things down there and there's an ecosystem which is yet to be found, which is the basis of the Meg, and interesting enough, Meg 2, which I'm really excited to see, by the way.
Oh,
Dan.
God, it looks ridiculous.
It's going to be
some
bonkers.
fun stuff.
Who's to say that it actually won't look like the Meg from the films, or the Meg from the fossils, or the carcasses, but perhaps looking a little bit different? Because again, miles upon miles down in the bottom of the ocean, in the deepest, darkest depths of the world, who's to say that there aren't those large beings, but they look very different, or they're versions of perhaps their prehistoric ancestors. Again, I know it might be a cop-out, but I think that probably links into what I said earlier, which is I think there's still lots to discover. We just literally can't go down that far yet to be able to discover all of those wonderful, crazy things that are down there that flourish and live and thrive, in near to the closest but bottomless pit of our inner core. I don't know. It's not to say it's not there. I find it very difficult, but perhaps it's so far down we'll never know until we manage to get down that to the crushing depths of the ocean.
Yeah, literally. If we go down there now, we would literally get crushed.
And we can only go so far. This might be wildly out. Have we gone down 20 miles or something with unmanned drones? I think recently they've won a record where they've built devices that can go under the sea, unmanned, because of course the pressure is just so much, gravity and the pressure of the water on top of you will crush you to nothing. But they have sent something down to a record depth.
10,927 metres, and that was in 2020.
And what's that in other measurements? Do we know that? 10,000 metres?
Let's Google.
What's Google say?
Well, I'll say 10,927 metres in miles. There we go.
Okay, so 7 miles.
Yeah.
So I've obviously hyperinflated, but that's still quite 7 miles. 7 miles. That's a way.
That's pretty much here to haven't, isn't it?
That's here to the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
That's here to the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
It's quite a way. That's a lot of water. So I don't know. There's stuff down there we haven't seen. Is there a Meg down? That's a question.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
One day.
We'll soon find out. But I guess that wraps up for Cryptids. So Alex, what have we got coming up next?
That's a good question. I haven't got a list in front of me. You have. What have we got?
We've teased some on our socials this week. We could just do an entire summer of left field stuff. This is up to you, listener.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's time relevant, delicious film review. We've got The Black Knight.
We have Orbiting the Earth. What is it?
We've got Mind Blowing Facts.
Yeah, you teased this to me the other day actually, and it's really fascinating. I quite like the sound of that one.
And the other one that I thought was quite fun was Crazy Coincidences.
Yeah,
there's some stuff in that.
Some really good ones.
But I suppose we'll probably... Oh, and TV plot holes.
Yep, plenty of those. We've done film plot holes.
Yeah.
Plot holes.
We sort of recently teased TV plot holes in Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it was our Volume 3 review, where we talked about Buffy and vampires.
Yeah, and boners.
Yeah. We won't go any further than that.
Well, you've said it.
Well, yeah.
There's nothing left to imagination.
But if there's any Guardians of the Galaxy fans listening to this, they should probably just go and listen to the episode and wait until the end.
Yeah.
If not, just go and have a listen and skip towards, I think, the last 10 minutes when we do our wash up. Not we are now.
No.
We don't need to make it any darker. Again.
It is what it is.
We don't need deja vu. So we've got some good stuff there to dive into.
We have, but we've also got lots of content coming out in the cinemas, right? So we've got The Flash on streaming, or we have Secret Invasion.
Yes.
Another wonderful Marvel content. So yeah, we've got quite a lot actually coming up, Dan.
Possibly John Wick 4, which we did miss in the cinemas.
But might do a watch along.
Yeah, that could be fun. It might be a long episode though. We got, what is it, 3 hours the film?
We'll cut it.
It's all good. We've got it covered.
That'd be a bit of a bitch to edit, but it could be fun.
Or it could be where we just pause the film and just record a segment.
Could do.
We'll think about it.
We'll work it out.
We always do. But if you want to get in touch, if you want to get in contact, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at onthetopicpod, and we've got Gmail, which is onthetopicpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on TikTok, which I don't really use. I should really get my head around it still after having it for so long. That is also at onthetopicpod. Alex, we've got YouTube and WordPress.
We do. So bonus content will be found on our WordPress, so I'll add the images to today's cryptids, and you can find and have a look and see all of them consolidated on there for your viewing pleasure. Along with the whole back catalogue, we've got our ugly mugs, our bios, anything you could possibly want, as well as subscribing to our newsletter and being notified when an episode drops. That is ontopicpodcast.wordpress.com. And our YouTube, so we're very quickly coming up to date with YouTube, aren't we?
2 weeks away.
2 weeks away,
we're doing
and
well.
We're going to release new content as and when we go live on Spotify for podcasts. So that is at OTT GITS, which, as you know, listener, is OTT Get in the Sea. Or you can just search for On Topic Podcast. And people are going there, Dan, because we're getting quite a few listens, and streams and watches. So actually, listener, there's absolutely no excuse not to be notified and going to listen or watch your favourite podcast wherever you decide to get it, because it's all out there.
It is.
For your viewing and listening pleasure.
Go smash that subscribe button if you haven't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will come for you.
Or the Mothman will. Or any other cryptid.
Or an Almus.
Yeah.
Or the Jersey Devil. So we should probably wrap up there. It's getting a bit dark now.
It is, yeah.
So, for another week, I've been Dan, and I'm off to try and find a dead cryptid now.
And, well, I am not going to be making love to some hairy men in the woods and trying to teach them the English language. I'm Alex.
And we'll see you next time. Alex, what we got? What the? Fuck. Blooper.
Bloopers.